BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good evening to you, listening to the Late Business Show. In our Money Wise segment this evening, we have Vicky Alahakon. She is a practicing lawyer. She's been in the legal practice for about 33 years. She's also the president of the Association of Women Lawyers, also the vice president of the Women's Aid Organization, and she's actively involved in the various NGOs, especially those affecting children, women, and family. Very good evening, Vicky, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Patrick.
Well, today on Money Wise, we'll be talking about the cost of divorce, and we'll try not to make it as painful as it sounds. Before we get into the nitty-gritty details about the cost of divorce, in your experience, Vicky, what seems to be the main factors that result in marriages breaking up?
Currently, for the young couples, I would say that it's because they all get married for all the wrong reasons, and they get into it, and even before the children come along, they realize that they've made a mistake, and we find that there's a tendency for marriages that have lasted for only 2 years to end. And for those who have been married for a slightly longer period, you find that the reasons could be because of non-communication between couples.
So it's wrong for us to assume that normally it's either infidelity or money issues?
Quite rarely, because that sets in very much later in the marriage. But there is a tendency now for marriages to break up in the early years, you know, even before the children come along and things like that, because the couples who get into a relationship or a marriage, they tend to work it out, see whether they can live together first, and before they even plan their children. And if they find that they are not able to tolerate or live together, they rather get out of it before it gets into it's not like before, you know, in the past, where couples feel that it's a stigma to get a divorce, and they tend to take it for a longer period. That's how it is.
So nowadays they have that convenient get out of jail free card that's called irreconcilable differences.
Mutual divorce.
Okay. Yeah. So let's get back to the nitty-gritty details about the cost of divorce. Yeah. How much does it actually cost when in some cases where it's simple, cut and dry, when both parties actually consent?
Yes. You know, finally, this is what most clients, when they call our legal firms, the first thing they ask you is how much is it going to cost you. But sad to say, Patrick, there is no fixed fee to be for the solicitors to charge, because each marriage, there are different things. For instance, if the marriage involves division of assets, issue of custody, then the lawyers are going to charge accordingly, right? But for a mutual divorce, the couple can easily expect to pay solicitors about a sum of about 3,000 to 5,000.
And what does this fee encompass?
This would include the disbursements which you pay the courts when you file a mutual divorce, but all the terms leading to the divorce must be agreed. In other words, the issues of custody, the issues of division of assets, and the issues of access to the children must be decided and agreed upon by the couple before a petition for a mutual divorce can be filed in the courts.
When they do approach the solicitors, is it normally okay, fine, you don't can't live with each other, you want a divorce, or do you actually encourage them to go for counseling first before they actually make a concrete decision?
In my case, what I always do is try and get the couple to sort out their differences first, if we have access to the other party. If a party comes to you and says, you know, they usually come to lawyers when the marriage is already over. And that is a mistake, because most couples, if they are headed towards a divorce, or if they feel that their marriage is cracking up, they must actually refer their problems to a marriage counselor, which they fail to do. And we have experts, marriage counselors and experts, and this is something that they do not resort to. They allow the problems in the marriage to get so bad that it becomes irreconcilable. So as a result, they go to lawyers. And by the time they come to us, the marriage is already broken up. And therefore, it's not fair for the couples to, or for the other party who doesn't want a divorce, to actually blame solicitors for the breakup of the marriage, because a party usually comes to a lawyer when they know that there is no going back.
And they've already made their mind up.
Yeah,
all right. You're listening to Moneywise right here on BFM 89.9. Today we're talking about the cost of divorce together with Vicky Alahakon. She's been in legal practice for about 33 years. Now, you see, when it's all cut and dry, it's about 3,000, 3,500 ringgit. In your experience, how much can it balloon up to? What are some of the most expensive divorce cases that you've handled?
It can come to quite a bit, because when it comes to the division of assets, the value of the properties, the parties go into a division, and some solicitors, they do charge a percentage of, you see, the more you get for me, the more I pay you, kind of thing. So there is a tendency for that too. So it can come up to about 100,000, 200,000, depending on the value of the assets divided. But at the same time, you also have where the couple come to you and they say, we have settled it. You don't really have to go through a trial. So if that is the case, then you don't charge so much, because the cost is actually involved if it becomes messy and it goes through a trial. I'm sure you have heard of cases where couples have come to you and said, I've been to the courts for the past 10 years.
To resolve
their differences. And that can happen, and it has happened. I've done a case which took me like 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and I saw the children through from the time they were in kindergarten right up to the time they were in college. So you see these families through all this bitterness, and it can be quite painful at times, yeah.
Okay, but just take us through the whole process. What actually happens, regardless of whatever the amount may be and whatever the separation of properties or assets and things like that. Right. Take us through the whole process, Vicky.
Okay, for instance, if a couple really want a divorce, or if one party wants a divorce, now if it's mutual, you can go to a lawyer, and the lawyer can communicate with the other party and say, okay, these are the issues. Let's get together, sign up the petition, and that can be ended in a month's time. So the fees are very much less. But if it's going to be contentious, then what happens is you have to get a certificate from a tribunal, a marriage tribunal, which is set up in all the states. Getting that certificate takes about 6 months, and you pay $20 to submit your application. And after you get the certificate, only then, with that certificate, you go and see a lawyer. And the lawyer prepares the petition and files it in court. Once the petition is filed and served on the other side, that person will have about 3 weeks to get a solicitor to file a reply to your petition. And then there's a answer to the petition and a reply which is filed. So that period of time will take about 3 to 6 months by the time you go through the exchange of documents and all that. So by the time the case actually comes for trial, it could take easily about 9 months to a year. So that's why it costs quite a bit. So what I would personally advise couples would be to reduce the cost of a divorce. You must try to minimize the issues to be tried, and having it as least acrimonious as possible. So if the spouse is wise and mature about things, it's best if the couple themselves sit together, mediate, and settle things amicably, so that all the lawyer has to do is prepare the papers as agreed between the couple, put it to the court, and the orders are made by the court. So you don't have to go through that long process.
But that, of course, is a nice hunky-dory situation if both couples are still on talking terms and they can still communicate.
Exactly.
Because if they wouldn't be in this situation in the first place anyway.
True.
All right.
True. But that is why it's so important for lawyers. They have a bigger role to play here. And that is what I always advocate for. Because a good family lawyer should actually put the couple together on the table to speak. And they should not be using that to make money for themselves, and to reduce the issues to be tried.
Under what circumstances, Vicky, would it be better to opt for a settlement or separation instead of a divorce?
A settlement. That is if both parties they can't live together, but they do not wish to remarry. So you can go for a separation, or if it's against your religion of sorts. But in terms of time factors and the paperwork to be done is about the same.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break right here on Moneywise. When we come back, we're going to talk about the other equation when it comes to divorce. Children, right here on Moneywise.
BFM 89.